Welcome back to another episode of All Gas, No Trash. My name's Adam, and today's episode is going to be dedicated to discussing the potential future of the Gelli Haha project. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and do the Game Rage No Curse minute. First off, I want to quickly mention that Gelli Haha has a show at the Resident DTLA on August 8th for those of you that want to see her live and in person. The tickets are available at Dice FM via the website or even the app. So go ahead and check that out if you want to see her live. Secondly, just want to give a quick thank you to all of you that have been subscribing and just overall being supportive of the channel. We really appreciate it. Gives us an extra incentive, keeps us motivated to keep pumping out episodes. So just wanted to give a quick thank you for that. So let's go ahead and get to Gelli Haha. So after Switcheroo having been released a handful of weeks ago, I've had some time to stew on the album, but also the future in which the project could be heading as far as a second album goes. And, after having looked into Angel Abaya, which is the real name of Gelli Haha, I've been thinking about her roots. And, for her having participated in a project called Electric Coconut, which was jazz influenced with like alternative music, I guess you could say, but also just having played jazz music herself or performing jazz music itself, on top of learning to play violin and also piano. uh, I thought, if we're going to get to another album after Switcheroo, what could be the likely things that could happen? Because, as it goes, write what you know or do what you know. And for Angel Abaya to have played jazz music in the past or have a background in it, and I think we talked about in the roundup episode having also experience in orchestration. Who knows, man? And the sky's the limit with this project, and I thought Switcheroo was a great foundation, even though the project was heavily laced in or heavily based in synth pop music. It just feels like a foundation in which many layers can be added. And what would it be like if you added on an element of jazz? And after having thought about it, one of the bands that came to mind was Magdalena Bay, which is a roster mate of Gelli Haha. And roster mate in the sense that they're both part of the same management. That is Loyalty Management, Loyalt Management. For those of you that are familiar with the discography of Magdalena Bay, the album called Mercurial World, which I believe came out in 2021. One of the singles on that album was called Secrets Your Fire. And for those of you that remember the track, there's a portion towards the end of the song where it really climaxes and all the synthesizers are like going off. And one of the things that caught me by surprise is the saxophone solo that comes in the last portion. And I was like, oh man, it's not like the songs are identical in terms of like the melody, but just the overall feel of it. Normalize has kind of that same feel as Secrets Your Fire from Magdalena Bay. And like I was thinking, if Gelli Haha were to make another album, and especially if it's kind of based in synth pop, if she includes a saxophone, maybe Secrets could be a point of reference for her to look at and seeing how it's done, because I love that song dearly, and it's one of the better tracks from Magdalena Bay. Of course, it being a single that also, they also believe that song was going to be fire, no pun intended. But and then another band that came to mind as far as incorporating jazz elements, I thought about Little Dragons, Little Dragon's Son, Slugs of Love. That is a track that I thought, maybe Little Dragon and Gelli Haha are not in a 1-to-1 comparison in terms of genre, but in terms of like alternative music that incorporate elements of jazz, Slugs of Love has a really cool thing going on it with like the opening part of the song with the bass line with the boom 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 boom, and then you have the like the it sounds like an uh elephant blowing its trunk or whatever, but it's a saxophone. I was like, man, what a great fucking opening for a song. And talking about the jazz elements, like, hey, maybe this is another point of reference that Gelli Haha could use in potentially incorporating that genre of music. But then I started thinking about the orchestral aspect, or just using a string section. I was thinking about Jockstrap's track called Acid, which I think was like one of their earlier tracks they released in their catalog, and it has this these strings playing in the beginning that are very strange. They feel like an unorthodox way in which the a violin could be played, because it feels like it's a half step or a half tone down, and it almost feels out of tune. But the only reason I bring it up is because when we're talking about the strangeness or off kiltness of Jockstrap, like, hey, that also feels similar to what Gelli Haha is. It's a really out there project. It's bombastic. It's strange. It's outlandish, like kind of like Devo, in a sense. If we're gonna go out on the deep end, like what better comparison than to think about a project like Jockstrap, and especially like a track in Acid. I think that's something else that Gelli Haha could potentially use as far as orchestral elements or using string sections that she could incorporate to a second album. Because like I said, when we're talking about making things, you end up resorting or going to the things that you already know or have experience with, right? So as it is often said, write what you know. And when it comes to music or songwriting, you write what you know. So that's why I've been kind of thinking about this particular aspect and the potential direction in which the Gelli Haha project could go in. But and the last portion that I wanted to talk about, as far as the project goes, is the business side. And having talked about loyalty management, which again has Magdalena Bay and Gelli Haha on their roster. Well, Magdalena Bay has been making their climb, having been featured on Jimmy Kimmel with their latest album, Imaginal Disc. And they've also have played with Billie Eilish as support. I mean, this project is as successful as it could possibly be, and the sky continues to be the limit. So this is the part where I wonder if, when it comes to management, if one of your largest artists allows you to open the door for other opportunities. And when I talk about opportunities, I'm talking about what that could potentially mean for Gelli Haha. And for as much success as Magdalena Bay has had, you wonder what a record, or not a record label, but a management group is thinking about doing with Gelli Haha. And, well, let's say that another extensive US tour from Magdalena Bay happens. And I should note that the booking agencies of Magdalena Bay and Gelli Haha are separate. They are not the same. Magdalena Bay is on Wasserman, and Gelli Haha is on TBA, or sorry, not TBA, but UTA, United Talent Agency. I believe that is the acronym, but nonetheless, they're on separate booking agencies. But there are circumstances on both booking and management where oftentimes you'll see a booking agency have two artists from their own roster playing shows together on a tour, or even management playing, a management's roster having two or three of their bands on a tour or on a show. So my logic, or my idea, is that maybe the next time that Magdalena Bay goes on tour, whether that's for a new album or just them touring Imaginal Disc once again, maybe we see Gelli Haha incorporated as support for a show, or maybe even a tour. Not only because they're part of the same management group, but also because of the fact that they have similar genres that they're playing, and it just makes sense to me. And I've thought maybe one other potential project that Gelli Haha could be playing with, and I don't know if this is possible, because again, when we're talking about business, you tend to work with people or that are in your circle, and this one is a bit of a reach for Gelli Haha, even though they are working with the same people. And if you've listened to me in the past, I've talked about David Cattell, who is the creative director for the music videos of Gelli Haha, and how he has worked with Pearl and the Oysters, and also with Gingeroo. So I was thinking, like, Gingeroo is a pretty big artist, and for them to share the same team as far as creative direction goes, and of course, one other person that is part of that creative team is Taylor Nicholson, who's a set producer. Wouldn't you want to work with people that make it as easy as possible, or that make sense as far as pairings go? That Gingeroo and Gelli Haha make a lot of sense together, in that, if they're on a tour together, it's basically the same team. Like, if they're going to have set pieces at the show, it's all the same people. Like, if Gingeroo has different set pieces on the stage, like, they obviously tear it down, but when Gelli Haha hops on stage before Gingeroo, it's also the same people. So everybody that adds things to the stage is part of the same team. So that kind of streamlines that whole process of, like, the logistics of moving shit around and all that stuff. So I don't know. Those are two bands that I thought maybe we could see Gelli Haha playing with, as far as like a show or even tour dates, in both Gingeroo and also Magdalena Bay. But more or less, that's the end of the episode. I just wanted to get some ideas off my brain, because I've been thinking about it so much, and I have talked about it in the past, but I thought I just wanted to make an episode that was just dedicated to this subject. And I think I'll be doing a recap episode talking about the performance at Resident DTLA, because I will be going to that show, so we can catch up again on Gelli Haha after the fact of that show. But anyways, thanks again for tuning in to another episode. I really appreciate y'all listening, and all the support that we've received. I mean, we're almost at 100 subscribers, and I never thought that we would even be able we would be able to reach that number, or that we were capable of reaching 100 subscribers. So we're eternally grateful for that. But anyways, that is the conclusion of the episode. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll catch y'all next time.